Hi, I'm Pucci with Valerio Painting and Remodeling. Today we're going to take you through a segment on drywall repair. We're going to start with some basic normal bumps and bruises to your drywall, such as this piece of furniture running into it, the kids hitting something on it, as well as nail pops. We have a few of them here, as well as here. This is where the original nails that were used to hold the drywall up to the framing have, through expansion, through movement, whatnot, popped out somewhat and resulted in a pop on your drywall. You can see them here, you can feel them. We're going to repair those, and then we'll move on to a little larger repair where either something major goes banging into the wall, or somebody has a bad day, puts a hole in the wall. So let's start out by looking at these nail pops. Now we have two here and two here, and here they've actually cracked through the paint. Now the first thing we got to do to repair these is expose them. Alright? So those are our two nail pops. First thing we're going to do then, once they're exposed, is put them back into place. We're going to use a nail punch and a hammer. Alright, and once we've done that, we're going to get some drywall screws. And the reason I like to use screws now, instead of just banging them back into place, is if this is popped out once, chances are it's going to happen again. So we're going to take a screw, we're going to put it just off center, and drive this in so that the lip of this screw, the top of this head, catches the nail head. And we're going to put one in on the bottom. Okay, as you can see there, that head has gone over top of the other one, and we're actually going to do one on the top. So I like to use two. You can probably get away with one, but I just don't want the problem to come back, so I add the extra screw. So we have the second one here. Now that that's in place, our next step is going to be to tap in these edges to make sure that none of it's sticking out further than the rest of the material. Okay, so next we have some spackle, and we're going to press that in. Again, press it in. Okay. Have a little extra on there because it's going to sink in as it dries. And we're going to give that a few hours to dry. Once it's dry, we can then sand it down. We may need to put a little skim coat on it again, but then that'll get us to where we're able to refinish the wall. So that brings us now to our second type of hole, which is just plain old damage. Now this one isn't bad. It's not all the way through where we have nothing in the back to secure against. So on this one, being that it's fairly deep, we're going to put some spackle in there, but we're not going to completely overfill this. If we were to fill that completely, it's going to take a very long time to dry. This way, there's going to be more air getting to it. It'll dry, we'll come back over it, we'll do another coat, and we'll be good to go. So now that we've had a little time for these holes to dry, we're going to go and fill this up again. Now this was the deeper one where we had to fill it somewhat, but not all the way in order to enable it to dry properly. So now we're going to fill it the rest of the way up. Again, we press that in there because we want to make sure any air pockets get out. Now that we've got it filled up, we're going to put one little bit of coat just to get it over the top, because as it dries, it's going to suck back in a little bit and shrink. And then we'll come back once that's had a chance to dry and sand it down, get it nice and even with the rest of the wall. Okay, now on these nail pops, I'm just going to press that in. In a few hours we'll be ready to sand and paint. Now I snuck in and did one little more layer on this bottom hole because as expected it sucked in a little bit as it dried. But now that these have both dried, it's time to sand. Now we're going to use a sanding sponge, and what we're going to do here is we're going to sand we're going to go over the whole thing, but our focus is going to be around the outside. Because the idea with any repairs is have it kind of feather out. We don't want to see it once we paint. So the biggest focus is around the outside. And we're going to let the sponge do the sanding. We're not pushing down on it. When you push down on it, you'll tend to get divots, which we don't want. So we're going to focusing right around that outside. Now we got it somewhat smooth on the outside, we're going to go over the middle. So at this point, I'll use my stippling brush. You can use pretty much any brush. This is a brush I use for texture on wet plaster, but we can use it for this. I'm going to brush away any of the loose dust, because we're going to give it a quick wipe. And you don't want to wipe too much because then it'll start to affect the finish. Okay. And the reason it's important for us to brush it off and also give it a little wipe is when we apply paint, if we apply paint over top of dust, the paint's not going to adhere. The dust is just going to be a layer in between, and it's going to peel. So now, rather than just try to match up color or put our new color on, we have to seal this first, because if we don't seal it, the paint is going to go across this and it's going to absorb differently into the rest of the wall than it is into the repair. And when it absorbs into there, it's going to suck it in, and you're going to notice the finish. So next we're going to get a little bit of our paint. And we're going to just cover these spots up. So the good thing about priming any repairs that you make, in addition to, you know, the overall benefit of the new paint going on uniform, when we prime it, we're going to see any imperfections that are very difficult to see when you're just looking at a spackle repair. So you can come back after the fact, and like, let's say there's little divots, you can actually apply some little more mud over top of the paint and then seal that again. But here we're looking pretty good, so we're done here. We're going to move on to our larger repair.